With the release of Legend ZA, all 1025 Pokemon have now been obtainable on at least one of the 6 Switch Pokemon games of Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, Sword and Shield, Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, Legends Arceus, Scarlet and Violet, or Legend ZA, either directly or through transfer. However, out of those 6 games, only Sword and Shield and Scarlet and Violet have supported official VGC tournaments, with the others either having a very limited competitive scene or no competitive scene at all. While every Pokemon has been included in at least one Switch game, there are still a handful that were left out of both Sword and Shield and Scarlet and Violet, meaning that they haven't been a part of official tournaments since Gen 7. So in this video, I want to take a look at these Pokemon and theorize how they would function once Pokemon Champions inevitably brings them back at one point, and what it would take to make them viable, because I'm going to be real, pretty much all of them are completely unviable in their current state. First, we have Parasect, the mon that I think is the most viable in its current state. On the surface, Parasect just seems like a budget Amoonguss, and honestly, it is. They are both grass types with 30 base speed that get Spore and Rage Powder, except Parasect has 54 less HP and a far worse secondary typing than Amoonguss, with Grass Bug having 2 4x weaknesses and 4 regular weaknesses as opposed to Grass Poison that just has 4 regular weaknesses. However, there's a few things that Parasect has in its favor that could give it a niche. Parasect gets the ability Dry Skin, which heals the user by 1/4 max HP when hit with a water move, and 1/8 max HP every turn in Rain, at the cost of taking double damage from Fire-type moves and losing 1/8 max HP every turn in Sun. A water immunity along with a fighting resistance means that Parasect walls Urshifu Rapid, one of the strongest Pokemon in recent formats that I assume will still be relevant in Champions. It also gets Wide Guard, which is great for dealing with all the spread moves in high power level formats like Reg I, and Parasect is actually the only Pokemon in the game with both Wide Guard and Redirection, not counting Smeargle. If it has access to Terra, Fire would be great on it since that turns 3 of its original weaknesses into resistances, and its new Water weakness goes away with Dry Skin's Water immunity, with Dry Skin's Fire weakness also being made neutral. There's 2 things that I think would give it that extra push to be viable, which is an increase to its HP and access to the move Strength Sap. With Spore, Rage Powder, Wide Guard, Strength Sap, and 80-80-80 defenses, Parasect could genuinely be viable. Next, we have Bibarel. As funny as this Pokemon is, it unironically has some pretty good things going for it, mainly its insane abilities. Simple doubles stat changes, Unaware makes the user ignore the opponent's stat changes, and Moody increases one random stat by 2 stages and decreases a different random stat by 1 stage. I don't know why they all have to do with stat changes, but other than its abilities, Bibarel's typing, Normal Water, is pretty good. Water allows for coverage into the Rock type moves that resist Normal, and Normal allows for neutral damage into the 3 types that resist Water, while also granting a Ghost immunity. For setup that takes advantage of Simple, Bibarel has Curse, Swords Dance, and Amnesia, and combined with 2 stab priority moves of Quick Attack and Aqua Jet, Bibarel's offensive presence is actually decent. This is something that really only works in singles though, so its role in doubles would probably be something that takes advantage of Unaware. It really needs better defenses, so let's start by giving it +10 defense and special defense. To really be a good support mon, it needs Follow Me, and I think it's very reasonable for it to learn it with mons like Furret, Pachirisu, and Mousehold having access to it. With it also having Taunt and Yawn, Bibarel could actually be a decent supporting mon in low power level formats like Reg H, which is really the only format that any of these Pokemon could have a chance in, so assume that for the rest of the video. It could even take Smeargle's place in the infamous Muck-Smeargle duo since Bibarel gets Moody, it just has better defenses but a worse move pool. Next, we have Swellow. This is one of the only Pokemon on this list that actually received a base stat buff where it got 25 more special attack in Gen 7. Now you might be thinking that a buff to its lower attacking stat is worthless, but that's actually not the case since Swellow has a pretty decent physical and special mode that it can run. Its physical mode takes advantage of the Guts ability, and since it's a normal type, it gets Stab Guts boosted Facade. This hits very hard, not nearly as hard as Ursaluna, but Swellow has a 125 base speed stat that doesn't need the setup that Ursaluna needs since it usually has to be in Trick Room. 125 speed is really fast for a format like Reg H, with Talonflame and Dragapult being some of the only mons with higher speed. Its special mode takes advantage of the Scrappy ability combined with Boom Burst, a 140 base power stab spread move that now hits ghost types. When combined with Focus Energy and a Scope Lens, it can guarantee a crit, which is probably the best way to increase its special damage output. Unfortunately for Swellow, it has pitiful coverage options, and since both normal and flying are resisted by rock and steel, its stab alone can get walled pretty easily. A consistent ground or fighting move would help fix this problem, as both hit rock and steel for super effective, and I think the most fitting one for it to learn would be Close Combat. Staraptor, Braviary, and Cantonian Farfetch'd are all non-fighting type bird-like Pokemon that get Close Combat, so I feel it's very reasonable to give it to Swellow as well. Next, we have all three Elemental Monkeys. The Elemental Monkeys are a very common target of hate, and I kind of get why. All three in the first stage have the same stats in the same first part of their name. All three in the second stage have the same stats and same part of their first name. They have nearly identical designs just with different colors, and they all have the same abilities and hidden abilities for their respective types, making it kind of feel like a waste for them to take up 6 slots in the Pokédex. With the buffs I had in mind, I really only think there's a chance for one of them to be viable, so I'll just focus on Simipour. With the monkeys only getting 2 abilities, they have an open slot available, and Drizzle should help Simipour's viability. It has higher special attack and speed than Politoed and Pelipper, and despite Scald's distribution being cut significantly, Simipour would likely keep Scald as it was one of the only Pokemon to learn it by level up. Just Scald isn't gonna cut it though, so I suggest 2 other moves that I feel are reasonable, Fake Out and Flip Turn. Several other monkey-like Pokemon get Fake Out, such as Ambipom, Infernape, and Rillaboom, and plenty of water types get Flip Turn, so I don't think I need to explain that. Having an ability that activates on Switchin, combined with a move that only works once on Switchin and a stab move that switches you out, is definitely enough to make Simipour viable. I mean, look at Incineroar with its ability that activates on Switchin, Fake Out, and pivoting moves. Next, we have Furfrou. Like Bibarel, this is another Pokemon with a really good ability, Fur Coat. Fur Coat halves the damage taken from physical moves by doubling the user's physical defense. While Fur Coat doesn't affect the damage of Body Press, since Body Press only takes into account the user's raw defense stat and defense boosts, I still think that Body Press would be a nice buff to Furfrou since it can set up its defenses with Cotton Guard, a status move that increases defense by 3 stages. With Fur Coat already doubling Furfrou's defense, one use of Cotton Guard results in Furfrou's defense quintupling. With a decent special defense stat, a good speed stat, and access to Snarl, Furfrou can even control damage on the special side. What really kills its viability though is that mono normal typing combined with 80 attack and 65 special attack. You really have to offer something special to be successful as a mono normal type, like being able to hold the Eviolite and having great bulk and coverage, learning every move in the game, having Friend Guard, Redirection, and a move that hits 10 times, being a restricted legendary, or being a literal god. If Furfrou had 10 higher attack and access to extreme speed, I think that could be enough to make it a viable niche pick with a set of Cotton Guard, Body Press, Extreme Speed, and Snarl, with Protect thrown in to replace any of the 4. Poodles and Afghan Hounds are some of the fastest dogs, so that's my logic there. Next, we have Wormadam. A female Burmy will evolve into one of the 3 Wormadam forms depending on the environment of its last battle. These 3 forms have different stats, typings, and move pools, but I mainly just want to focus on the Trash Cloak form, which is ironically the least trash among the 3, as it has the very strong Bug Steel typing. This typing only has one weakness to fire, and it has decent defenses of 60, 95, 95. For its abilities, it gets Anticipation, which is terrible, and Overcoat, which is actually decent, as it's just Safety Goggles as an ability. It really needs more HP if it wants to be a decent supporting mon, so plus 20 HP is the first buff I would make. For moves, it gets Infestation, String Shot, Sucker Punch, Quiver Dance, and that's kind of it. Infestation is good chip damage, and String Shot is good for speed control, but this thing isn't doing anything with Sucker Punch or Quiver Dance with an offensive spread of 69, 69, 36. Like Bibarel, if it had Redirection, I think it could actually have a niche, and I think Rage Powder makes sense for it to learn, with it being a bug type, and other bug types like Butterfree, Ariados, and Vivillon getting it. Rage Powder Redirection with a Spore immunity from Overcoat unfortunately won't work on the most common Spore user in the game, Amoonguss, since it's a grass type and is immune to opposing Rage Powders, but it would work on the second most common Spore user, Smeargle. Lastly, I'm going to briefly go through every Pokemon left because all of them are so bad that I couldn't think of anything outside of Huge Power or Wonder Guard that would save them. Carnivine is competing with Rillaboom as a mono grass type, and it would really need something to set it apart, like a new evolution, a mega evolution, or a regional variant if it wants any chance at all. Watchog is a terrible mono normal type with even less things going for it than Furfrou. Chatot is basically just a worse Swellow as a normal flying type with Boom Burst, and while it does have higher special attack than Swellow, it has way less speed and terrible ability options. Same thing for Pidgeot and Fearow. Purugly is another mono normal type with more things going for it than Watchog, but still less than Furfrou. Fake Out and its good speed stat could be something, but I really don't think so. Mothim has terrible stats, a terrible typing, and while it does have a good ability with Tinted Lens, it will never be used over Volcarona as a setup bug type with Quiver Dance. Kecleon is the fourth mono normal type in this video, and it can change its type, but most of its good coverage moves are special while its higher attacking stat is physical. Beedrill has a mega that's maybe usable, but in its base form, it's a Gen 1 early route bug. What do you expect? Same goes for Ledion but Gen 2, and Dustox and Beautifly but Gen 3. Castform is the fifth mono normal type that can also change its type, but it can't change its 70 base stats all around. Huntail and Gorbis are just worse Barraskewda and Basculegion. Clamperl might even have a better chance than its evolutions, since it gets the signature item, the Deep Sea Tooth, that doubles its special attack, but it would have to be in Trick Room to function, and it has 35, 85, 55 bulk that can't be boosted by the Eviolite since you're holding its signature item. Delcatty is the sixth mono normal type, and it has terrible stats and terrible abilities. Maybe if it got Skill Swap, it could give Normalize to an opponent and make its Ghost type ally completely immune to their attacks, but this is really gimmicky. 7th and 8th mono normal types go to Spinda and Raticate, with Spinda having garbage stats and Raticate being completely outclassed by Swellow and Ursaluna as normal type Guts users. An Unknown learns one move that's not even in the game anymore. And those are Pokemon that weren't in Sword and Shield or Scarlet and Violet and what it would take to make them viable. I think I got all of them, and I'm only going off their fully evolved forms, but there was probably one or two that I forgot. As I've said in previous videos, I don't think every Pokemon needs to be good, and it's fine for some of them to be bad and be outclassed from power creep. But as a thought experiment meant to challenge myself to come up with creative ways to make them work, I thought this would make for a fun video. Anyway, if you want to support me and my channel, just leave a nice comment since I do read all comments. You can also become a member for 99 US cents a month to get a badge next to your name and early video access like all of these lovely people. If you want bonus content, check out my second channel, Extra Bell, where I post videos I've scrapped from the main channel, as well as more casual, unscripted videos. Likes are also one of the ways that YouTube determines if a video should be passed around to more people, so if you feel that this video deserves to be, I would appreciate it. Thanks for watching.